Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Allen, and welcome back to the What a Thought podcast, where I've got thoughts. I've got so many thoughts running through my head, and you all have to hear them, and I can't apologize enough for that. There's some serious topics today because a lot of things happened in the world this past week. A lot of things were brought to attention to me that had occurred that maybe didn't happen in the past week, but still occurred much too recently with everything that's going on. But before I kick into some of the more serious stuff, I wanted to get some of the lighthearted topics still sitting on my notes. Uh, First things first, I tried an energy drink for the first time. I know, right? I have serious topics to talk about, but first, let's talk about energy drinks. I tried an energy drink for the first time, and that was a disaster. Firstly, I drank half the can and immediately felt like I was about to have a heart attack. And I know that was probably just my system not used to that much, probably caffeine kicking in at the same exact time. Like, I drink coffee. I love coffee. I can't deny, I will never deny that. I will die on that hill as a coffee drinker. I sure do love coffee. With creamer, man, I upset coffee drinkers. I make my coffee look like tea. There's so much creamer in it, and it's delicious, and I will die on that hill as well. But so I tried an energy drink, Bang to be specific, because I thought to myself, hey, if all of these little white high school teenagers can drink these cans almost every other day, then there's maybe something good about it. No, there isn't. I've been lied to. They're all liars. They're all broken. Every single one of them. Every single white high schooler out there, if you have the opportunity to listen to this, and I'm sorry if you are, but you're broken. if you're drinking Bang and you're enjoying it, dude, it's so salty. Why is it salty? It shouldn't be salty. Like, I got the cotton candy flavor specifically for the idea that cotton candy is sugar. Like, it's sugar. Cotton candy is just sugar. If you didn't know that, they take sugar and they heat it up and they catch it on a little thingy and they're like, oh, look at this, it's the candy floss. I've made you candy floss. Cotton candy. And that's cotton candy. I'm getting flashbacks all of a sudden to the amount of times that I've seen the reel of that one girl on TikTok. Because I hate TikTok. I'll talk about the TikTok algorithm at a later point. But I hate TikTok, so I'm on Instagram only. And a lot of those TikToks end up as reels on Instagram. And there's this one person who is constantly making cotton candy. Like, that's all she does. And it'll always be like, she'll put something random in and be like, it's not working. And it's working. And then she'll try it and eat it in the worst way you've ever seen, because she mainly just eats the stick. And she'll be like, delicious. Just kidding. I used this. And she'll be holding sugar. And I want you to know that impression is 100% accurate. No one can deny to me that is what she sounds like, because it's exactly what she sounds like. All the time, every time. But anyways, I got cotton candy flavored Bang because I was like, okay, this should taste good. And I sipped it. And for those who don't know, if you've never read a can of, like, the ingredients on a can of Bang, there are none. They've got a bunch of vitamins in there, but like where normally you would see like, oh, here's how many sugars are in it, or here's how many carbs are in. Nothing. That section is completely empty. It has 0 calories, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But they're 40 milligrams, I think, of sodium. That's the only additive. Because electrolytes, if you didn't know, you get electrolytes from sodium. Sodium is salt. That makes me regret all the times I've had Gatorade. But you know what? Gatorade adds other things to make it taste good alongside getting your electrolytes, so I'm fine with that. I was not fine with this, because if you've ever had someone give you a piece of candy and then it turned out to be the worst thing you've ever had, because they took it and like dipped it in salt because they're a monster. That's what this tasted like, straight up. I can't think of any other way to describe how this tasted except as if someone took cotton candy and made it with a mixture of salt and sugar. And no one wants that. Dude, it was, oh my word. I took a video and I sent it to the people I was informing that I was trying it to, because I had a whole moment on Tuesday where I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do things and I'm going to be my own person. And I got that because I was like, maybe an energy drink will taste good and I'll like it and I'll get energy. No, this was bad. This was awful. I hated it with every fiber of my being. I just burped. I know you probably didn't hear it, but I want to acknowledge it because I acknowledged it. So yeah, that was the worst mistake I could have made, and the only upside is that it created the best 6 minutes. I can't wait for someone to hear my impression of that girl that I don't know the name of on TikTok who makes the cotton candy, and they're gonna get offended. They're gonna think I'm so mean, but go watch the videos. Go watch the videos she makes, but bootlegged. Don't give her that credit. I hate, you know what? I will talk about TikTok real quick, and then I'll get into the more serious topics I've got. I hate the fact that TikTok, its whole creator content base is a person finding a niche thing to get famous on, and then doing it 10,000 times. Because I kid you not, every single time I saw Miss Cotton Candy Girl, she was using a different thing. She was making a different thing. And I think, in fact, she's evolved. She's no longer doing cotton candy. I think she's doing cotton candy and also the frozen thing that people are doing when they're like, mix these things together, then put it in the bottle, and then you can squeeze the bottle and it comes out and it's a nice chewy whatever. I don't know. I don't understand it. This is why I stick to the few social medias that I do know, which aren't many, and I'm just like, okay, it is what it is. That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm sure someday someone's going to want me to talk more about TikTok, and I won't know what to do. All right. Almost 7.5 minutes in. Almost? Past 7.5 minutes. 7.5 minutes in, and we're getting to some more of the serious topics here. So, there was a tragedy on the set of the film Rust. For those that do not know, a prop gun was fired by actor Alec Baldwin, and it fatally injured the director of photography, that I've just blanked on her name, and that's upsetting. Don't give me 1 second because I refuse to not say her name. I spelling things wrong. New York Times Post. Helena Hutchins. That was a lot of silence. I apologize for that while I Googled, because I didn't narrate my Googling. But yes, she was fatally shot on the set of the film Rust, and the director, Joel Souza, was also injured. I have yet to see any clarification if it was two separate shots from the prop gun, or if it was a shot and then, like, it hit both of them. You know? But it's... yeah, it's a terrible, awful tragedy to happen twice, like, within the past, like, 30 years. 30? Maybe 40? I don't remember when The Crow came out. For those that don't know, Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee, was also fatally shot on set of a film, specifically The Crow, back in the 90s, by a prop gun that had it had something lodged in its barrel, so when the blank went off, it propelled the thing lodged in the barrel out, and that is what, took him out. And it's tragic, dude. It is a terrible loss, not just to the world, but to like the family. I can't imagine how the Lee family has been since then. I can't imagine how Helena Hutchins' family is doing. I know they've made some comments about their loss because she had a husband and two kids. So that's absolutely awful. And I've been watching the discourse go down throughout the internet because no one knows where to point the blame, and it's kind of slowly been coming to light about the prop master for the film because apparently the film is on like a very low budget, so they couldn't get a bunch of well trained unioned people to come do all of the tech side as well as act in it, which is a big danger. For the I this it's a serious topic. If you can't tell from my tone of voice, there's no jokes in this segment now that I've left the bang section. But having people that are unqualified and untrained, like, I would want at least a couple of years of training from a human being to do this job. And I believe they had someone who was like originally like set to do this, and then there was a bunch of stuff and they fired all of the like union people and just brought in whoever. And it's like, that's dangerous, dude. That's so horribly dangerous. Like, I've already hated guns in the real world. Like, I dislike, like, yeah, I play video games with those items in it, but I couldn't imagine picking up a real one at any point, and I would never want to pick one up or have one aimed at me on a set, knowing that we're still making mistakes like this and having to witness these tragedies. Like, this is terrible. And the only reason I wanted to talk about it is not because it's a topical event, but because as a filmmaker, as someone who makes shorts and who wants to make longer form projects, like, having to know and like acknowledge moments like this and keep them in my mind is important, because I no one wants to see this happen again. It's already terrible enough that we see this happen and we immediately all remember Brandon Lee. I didn't grow up with Bruce Lee or Brandon Lee. Well, okay, they were in my home. Like, Bruce Lee was because of my father, but like, I wasn't around when he was popular, like when he was alive, and I definitely wasn't around when the incident with Brandon occurred. But I learned about it. You learn these things because they're just so wild to think about. So then to see this again and actually be here this time, and be present and watching people's responses to it, like, come on, guys. I enjoy memes. I like finding funny things, but seeing people make memes out of this situation, especially like using Alec Baldwin for the jokes, like, come on. Guys, this is a tragedy. And this isn't just me trying to like pander, but like, seriously, this man just using a weapon put in his hand for a film that should have been empty took the life of another human being on accident and also injured another human being. And everyone's out here making these like memes and jokes about it, and that's really messed up. Because I know for a fact that if you ended up in a situation like that and you did that thing and people started to make memes about you, you would hate the world. It would be awful. You would hate everything. And it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I wanted to bring that up and acknowledge that is a currently ongoing, like, acknowledged tragedy that is happening right now. On top of that, moving on from that one, because I do want to get through all three of these. Yeah, today's episode's a little more somber. A lot more. It's a lot more somber. I don't really want to ever talk about big current events that much, but sometimes you have to. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes it's what comes up during the week. For the most part, I don't talk about too many things that are current. I talk about things that are within probably the year, but these have been the most current things I've talked about on this podcast, and I want them to be seen in a much more serious tone. I know that I'm a little more comedic, but these were the things I wanted to discuss. So moving on from the incident on the set of Rust, I was just kind of flipping through some articles. I got bored one night, and I came across one that broke my brain. So I kind of have to read it to you guys, at least the title, because it was insane. I don't even think I could find the article. Nope, can't find it. I would probably have to go to Snapchat, of course, because that's where I found it. Of all things, Snapchat. But anyways, man 41 admits killing and chopping up his 22-year-old wife but says it was self-defense. That's the most loaded thing I could ever hear in my life. And hey, I'm so sorry if none of this is anything you wanted to hear get talked about. But alas, we're talking. We are speaking, and this is the topic. So I went to roll past that, right? I was just like, okay, here's another article about something terrible in the world. And then I read it again, and I was like, wait. He's claiming it was self-defense. And that's where it became questionable, right? I was like, oh, okay. It was self-defense. What did she do? No. Not at all the self-defense you're thinking. I was like reading it. So, first off, he shot his wife and then chopped her up. Already, step too far, dude. If it was self-defense, you would have fought back. If an incident occurred that took her life, you go to the cops. But it was the fact that this man murdered and then chopped up that I was like, okay, I see. This is insanity. Good to know. And then I kept reading, and I was like, no, this can't be right. His self-defense claim, right? It happened so much sooner. Like, way earlier in the story. He waited like 2 hours before his self-defense occurred. And I was like, oh, no. No. Because he's trying to plead, right? He's trying to plead that not guilty, that it was self-defense. Because supposedly they got into an argument earlier on. They were on like a trip, and they got into an argument, and she like hit and like kicked him a little in this argument. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he did what he did. Let it be known, nothing of what he did was correct. All of it's wrong. All of it is terrible. I hate every single bit of it, right? But they got into the argument, right? In the early hours of Saturday, like they had an argument, it became physical, and then she stopped, went and laid down, and then 5-10 minutes later, so not hours later, but 5 to 10 minutes later, so it's already been minutes later, she is laying down, and he does this shit. And I was just sitting here like, what the fuck is wrong with people in the world? Holy hell, dude. What? So he shoots her while she's defenseless, and then he wants to claim self-defense. And then he dismembers her. And then he leaves the camper. He goes all the way back home. Calls in like I think her family is like reports her missing, and he's like, because he's like, oh, she got off at a stop, and like after they argued and said she was gonna walk home, so they report her missing. And after he did everything he did, he just left her in the RV, in the camper or whatever, and then just went about doing his thing. And I was just like, what? And then like he didn't like try to not confess to it. He confessed, but he wants to plead guilty. And I was just sitting here like, what is going on in the world right now that someone could do this and give all this information, right? And then want to plead not guilty and claim it as self-defense. Huh? What? Dude, that's insane. The world is insane. I think the world is burning. I feel like looking at everything that has occurred in the past week, the world has to be burning. Right? Someone convince me otherwise. Because this is why I avoid the news, everyone. I don't like the news. I don't like current topics, current events. I'm going to take a sip of water. On occasion, I will peek in behind the curtain, that I've put up for myself to block myself from current events and current news. And I regret it every single time. Now, the Rust incident, I couldn't avoid that. That was unavoidable. That was put in my face. Literally everywhere I turned, someone was talking about it. I got a notification from AOL because I'm apparently 77, and that is the email I use, and no one should come at me for it. But I got the notification, and that's when I saw the article about what occurred on the Rust set, and slowly I've just been learning more information. I still don't have a lot of information. I'm not a reporter. I, once upon a time, tried to be a reporter for a newspaper, and that got too hectic. But yeah, I'm not a reporter. I obviously can't amass all the information needed to sit here and talk about either one of these tragedies for an hour. But the fact that one was put in front of my face, so I couldn't avoid it, but this one was just presented to me while I was scrolling through things on Snapchat. What? That's so insane. And it also just kind of leads to like a whole separate issue. Like there's no filters for Snapchat. Like to filter out the stories that they put up on the side for you to see. And I feel like that's a not good thing. Okay? This is going to be the segue I put between talking about this awful scum of a human being and the next serious story that was brought forth to me by a friend of mine over on Instagram. But there's no filter, like to filter out anything on Snapchat, like in their little story section. And sometimes I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And other times I think, wow, this should have had a warning. Like I was watching like through one of their story things, and it was about like cleaning hacks or like people like deep cleaning things, and I was like, okay, this is fine. And then one of the clips within it was this like haphazard dude, like haphazard cleaners cleaning up this like home that had a double homicide in it. And I was like, whoa. I was just watching one guy use a steamer on a teddy bear, and now you're cleaning a home that had a double homicide in it. Firstly, they never showed any of the cleaning. The portion of the clip they used was just him talking about it as he walked around in the full hazmat getup through the home, and showed where like all the furniture was still there, and that like all the small things had already been like ransacked and stolen from the home. And he was like showing the spots where the incident occurred and like talking about it. And I was like, Jesus, what? You can't just give that to me without warning. Do you know how terrible that is? Like that's That's awful. Like, it's already messed up in itself to just imagine that incident, but to then just in the midst of me watching people like clean teddy bears and talk about better ways to like clean their plates, you've got this guy cleaning a double homicide slash suicide. The guy who killed the other people then killed himself. I was like, oh my god. I was like, you can't just put that in there. You know why I say that? Because there's so many young human beings on Snapchat. I'm 20. That's fine. But I know there are plenty of probably 13-year-olds out there who have this. And I feel like the last thing I'd want to have pop up when a 13-year-old is like scrolling through something on Instagram is, oh, look at them clean those plates. All right, and this here is where Jonathan Barker shot both of his roommates and then himself. You can see on the floors where it is seeped in after not being touched for months, and everyone has stolen everything. And now back to cleaning teddy bears. Like, dude, come on now. This is insane. That is not a good thing, and I hated that. I hated it. Like, I skipped through it and then I went back because I was like, this couldn't have been real. I thought I made it up, but no, it was still there. I should have screen recorded it. I would have just let it play for you guys, and I'll remember that for next time. But like, I was like, this is ridiculous. The world is burning. That's gonna be my new catchphrase. All right. So, the last big one that I've got. There is a Polish theater company. Obviously, all three of these stories, they don't have any connection to them. The things I'm talking about, outside of the fact that they're real world events, they are current topics that I've chosen to discuss here because this is a space that I've created where everyone, I hope it's known. I don't think I would have needed to say it, but I want to make sure everyone knows that this is a space to feel safe. My intention with this space is to never make anyone feel like they are lesser than anyone else, or that they should feel bad about themselves. It is a space for conversation. It is a space for discussion. And sometimes those discussions are funnier things. When we talked about Dildo Newfoundland, that was a much funnier topic, and that's fine. I was fine with that being a funnier topic, because I enjoyed that. It was nice. That was something someone brought up to me, and I was eager to talk about it. These things, some of them were brought up to me, some of them weren't. Some of them were just kind of forced onto me, and I've decided to talk about them here to maybe kind of get a discussion out there, because these are some terrible things happening. And it's our world, It's not a movie. It's not me talking about a book or a song. Like, we're talking about the world. So there in Poland, there is this theater group, I believe. I can't pronounce their name. I'm sorry about that. It's like Skenos Polzensna, something of the sort. But they're in Poland, and they were doing the worst thing I think I've ever seen. It was a show called "And You Will Become Chinese." This was brought forth to me by a friend of mine. They posted it to their story. I asked them if I could screenshot this, and I mentioned I'd talk about it. And firstly, if you can't already tell how a group of Polish people should not have a show called "And You Will Become Chinese," that's already a big red flag. If you can't realize that shouldn't have existed in the first place, I need you to reassess your existence here on planet Earth, and especially if you are an American in the United States of America or one of its territories that we shouldn't be in, reassess to yourself, hey, why wasn't I upset with these Polish people making a show called "And You Will Become Asian"? Because I existed in America, and I've seen what the past year and a half has held for people of color, bi interracial people of color, and it hasn't been good. I'm gonna sip some more water. Now, apparently, because I had to do a bit more digging to understand this one. Apparently, the intention of the show was to create a critique of China. You know, and as most people know, China's not the best. I'm immediately about to get banned in China for this, but it's not the best, dude. It's not a good place for its citizens, and it's a whole big issue. That is a whole separate topic on its own. But they chose to go about doing that in literally the most racist way possible, because a lot of the images that I had seen when I went through their Instagram account where they talked and like advertised the show, it's them in like not traditional, but like in kung fu esque get-ups. They've got the hats, they're striking the poses, and I was just like, oh no, buddies, you can't do that. I'm sorry, it is traditional Asian clothes. I just read the thing again. But I was just like, guys, this is bad. This is really bad, because you can clearly tell that there's a major disconnect. They're claiming that their intention was to critique this nation, right? But then they're going about it while stereotyping the citizens of the nation, which, like, hey, draw the line somewhere, because you can't have both worlds. You're either critiquing China or you're racist towards Asians, guys. And especially when I went into the comments on, like, they addressed the things people were saying to them, and I'll read what they said in like their English, because they wrote it in Polish, or what, I don't know what the people of Poland speak. I assume it's Polish, or right. I mean, I assume it's Polish. But then they attached an English writing of it, so they knew that people who spoke English were also reading it. And I was reading some of the comments from people, and this one, I'm gonna leave out their tag because I don't know if they would want me to say that on the internet, even though 4 people are gonna see this. But they're talking about some poster. Now, obviously, I don't live in Poland. I think Warsaw is where they're from. Like, they're in Warsaw, Poland, and I guess they had posters up to advertise their show somewhere. And this person wrote, and it was in English, so I was able to read it, and just your poster was very painful and shocking to see in the middle of the city. One of your performers was pulling his eyes in this poster. You were definitely mocking how we look, and personally made me, as a Chinese person, feel totally alienated and humiliated. I have not seen your show, but I don't want to. The mere fact you are even dressing in our clothing, commenting on our culture, trying to make money this way is already gross. We are not stereotypes that you can pick up and play with like it's no big deal. Please be better. Wow. So, obviously, I can paint the picture in my mind, and you can paint the picture in your mind of what this poster looked like. And the fact that let's just think about that. They had to take this photo, approve the poster, print the poster, put it up places. All of those steps, and no one along the way said to themselves, maybe this isn't a good idea. Now, obviously, I'm not an Asian citizen. I'm not anyone of the continent of Asia. I am not an Asian American. I'm an African American. I can only talk so much on certain topics outside of my race. If I wanted to talk more on it, I would bring someone on. I will, if that's what people wanted, depending on the conversation that's had. I would bring someone who's better versed in that world to come talk about it, because they would be able to do it better than I ever could, and because that's how it should be. I'm only talking on this particular thing that has occurred because it's awful, dude. It's egregious. Anyways, I'll read what they wrote, what they said on their post when they were addressing this. Due to this is from the Skinaz Polzensna, the group, the theater group. Due to the emotions evoked by our last poster, we would like to remind you with words from the performance that we do not laugh at sexual orientation, race, or political views, we only quote. The performance is not intended to insult or make fun of any culture. Those of you who have been know that the performance presents Polish behavior and social mechanisms in a distorted mirror. On the other hand, referring to the question of China, we raise the topic of violation of human rights and the principles of democracy. Okay, so look at that. Even reading this again, I'm going to acknowledge that I mixed up what they were presenting. They were talking about they were presenting Polish behavior and social mechanisms in a distorted mirror. Anyways, continuing what they wrote, costumes and elements referring to Chinese culture were used in the performance, but we would like to remind you that theater uses various forms and the costume is part of the performance. The question was asked, why don't we hire Asians to play Asians? We are not playing Asians in the play. Polish actors play in Polish, and this is a performance about Chinese culture. Never mind, they just said it there. It was about Chinese culture. About Chinese culture, we touch on political and economic threads, but focusing our criticism on the Polish context. So, they were touching on Chinese culture, but in relation to Polish political and economics and behavior and social mechanisms through a distorted mirror. Hey, buds, if the whole point was to talk about Polish things, then why the shit are you dressed like Chinese people? What? What's the point? Show me where the threads connect, okay? You want to talk about Polish fucking political and economic threads, right? Like, they're focusing their criticism on the Polish context. They're focusing their criticism on the Polish context of these Chinese threads that they've pulled. Hey, bud, if that's the case, no reason for the getup. No reason for the title you chose. Hey, there's no reason for your racist poster either. Dog, if I wanted to talk about the effects of, like... Look, this is going to sound terrible, and someone might think this is a bit, and it's partially a bit, because this is a more not lighthearted, but this is a topic I can make slight fun of, because I'm making fun of these people, because they've earned the right to be laughed at. But if I made a poster, and I called it, "And You Will Become White," and you saw me dressed up as a businessman with white face on, right, and I put on a blonde wig and shit, right, and then I talked about how you've misinterpreted the point of my show. I was talking about African American culture in the context of some of the connecting threads of white culture. Dude, no, I would just be racist. I would just be racist. And there's no way, ifs, ands, or buts to get around that, dude, because it's racist. Like, what? In what world does someone had to write this? Like, this wasn't them performing some old show that, like, in modern eyes is terrible, because that's a whole separate story. Obviously, older shows from, like, olden times are gonna have some terrible things that are of the time, and that's the reason now they're stuck in just show form, is because we can encapsulate the time and know, hey, this isn't modern time, but this is how it was back then, and that's all right. This? No. Someone wrote this. Someone in their team wrote this show. They titled this show. They made costumes for this show. That whole thing about how theater uses various, like, costumes and elements, yeah, we do, but not like this. Not like this. Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, if you're gonna go perform Anything Goes, maybe you're gonna go put a performer in the outfit because they're playing an outdated archetype of an Asian person. But you're not gonna just say, hey, we're doing a performance of, I don't know, what is the one? What's the one with the witch trials? I forget what that's called. So instead, I will just say Doubt. Let's say Doubt. You're not gonna just put the priest from Doubt into traditional Chinese garment. No. So if it, like, Come on. And they talk about it. They're like, why not hire Asians to play Asians? They're not playing Asians. They're Polish people playing Polish people. Oh, they're Polish people playing Polish people? Then why are they in the costume? Dude, make it make sense. Now, I understand. I'm not a Polish person, all right? There's already a disconnect in that sense. I am an American, and they are Polish, and they are in Poland. Duh, there's already a disconnect there. But you know what? They're not Asian. They are not Asian, and they're not in Asia. They're not in the continent of Asia. I just smacked my mic. I'm so sorry. They are not in the continent of Asia. They have no say in using this to talk about Polish stuff. You want to make a show talking about Polish culture? Make fun of Polish culture, dude. If you wanted to talk about stuff and critique Poland, then I would have expected you guys to do something that relates back to Poland. I don't understand why you needed to go through this lens of being Chinese to talk about Poland. Do you understand how this disconnect suddenly makes you a terrible person? Like there's no way to justify going that route. You know why? Because you had a straight linear line and you decided you were going to take the off-ramp to Chinatown for no good reason. And then you took Chinatown and you brought it with you back onto a straight path. But now the road had exploded, and you were like, well, we'll carve it out with Chinatown. We'll put Chinatown right here, and this is the new road. And you followed that path and never once thought to yourself, hey, do you think that as not Asians, we shouldn't do this? And no one said no, apparently. Because, I mean, even look at what I read. The thing that they're addressing, it's not the show. They're addressing the poster. That's the thing that upset everyone, right? And, like, the performance is not intended to insult or make fun of any culture. Then stop performing. Because you didn't say that's what you were going to do. Because you know what you did say at the very end? We invite you to our theater to understand what we want to tell. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, dude. No. Never. I will never. Catch me in Poland, catch me in Warsaw, Poland, and catch me not entering that theater. In fact, catch me walking into that theater to tell them I hate them, and then I leave. And I do a little laugh. I go, hee 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 hee, and I run off. Because you know what? That'll be a better performance than whatever they're probably putting on that stage. And I'm sure, right? I'm sure they've probably done such great performances of other things before this moment. I'm going to drink some more water. I'm sorry. Man, the silence of me drinking water is immense. I'm sure they've done other shows, and I'm sure those went well, and I'm sure people enjoyed them and had a good time and thought, wow, this was really fun. I can't wait to come back. But this, dude, no, I can't. I cannot stand by it. This is why the moment I saw it, I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And then I talked about it alongside the other two things because I was like, you know what? Let's just have one big serious podcast because there's no way to split any of those three things up at all. You know? Yeah, there might be more information that comes out for all three of them. And if there is, cool. We'll talk about it next week. But as of right now, everyone send your condolences to Helena Hutchins' family. As well as for Joel Souza. I'm hoping he's making a very good recovery. And lay off of Alec Baldwin. Guys, like, yeah, he's still standing, he's still living, but this is a tragedy for him too. So that's my recap on that. To the guy who claimed self-defense and is trying to get a not guilty plea after murdering his wife, I hope you burn. And for these guys and their horribly racist show, be better. I don't think you'll understand my podcast if it ever makes it to you, but be better. As for Bang, why are you salty? Please add some sugar. I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast there for today. So thank you guys so much for listening. I know that this was a heavy podcast, and I know that I kind of tore into 3 intense things very quickly, and I think that that's okay. That's all right. Uh, Not everything's gonna be funny. There might be some funny moments. There might be things you think are funny. That's why, if anyone's ever wondered, this is why I say there's a bit coming, because I want someone who's listening that might not be able to tell that this is a funny moment, that it's a funny moment, so that they can enjoy the joke as well. You know, that's why I preface it. That's why I'm always like, that was a bit. So then you can be like, okay, that one was a joke. If I don't say that, I'm probably being serious, and especially in today's episode, this was very serious. There was a lot of other mini things that I could have talked about, but those were just the ones that felt really prevalent, and that I wanted to maybe spark a discussion from you guys, see what you say, because obviously I'm almost certain there are some people that'll think otherwise. In some things, I know already that there are probably people out there that think Alec Baldwin should be held accountable for what happened, which I disagree with, because he was not the prop master. It's his job to make sure he's doing everything correctly, but that part isn't his job. And I'm sure there are people that'll disagree with me and say, hey, no, they weren't being racist. They were just making a critique. And to that I say, well, can you justify why they dressed how they dressed, and the poster that they had to write a whole apology about, in which then they still invited people to come see their show? It's a whole lot of things. So anyways, thank you guys again. Check out everything else I do. There's a link down in the description. I do a lot. There's a lot of things happening. I do a lot of things, but it's fun. It really is fun. So thank you guys again. Check out the other episodes if you haven't. I've been Matthew Allen, and this has been the What a Thought podcast. See you guys next time.